What a great chat we just had with Bob Nightengale. Toad and I just finished that up. We tried to do something a little different today, Toad.
First time ever, Mafia dropping back-to-back episodes. We thought it was appropriate. Playoffs start today, if you're listening to this when we release it, which will be Tuesday, October 1st. Playoff baseball starts today. What better person to talk to than a national beat writer, Bob Nightengale, USA Today. Very gracious with us with his time. He had Braves Mets on in the background. Just really a very quick conversation, but an insightful 12 minutes.
Yeah, no, certainly we thought we had Bear on to get you primed with your wallet. Now we have Bob Nightengale to get you primed with your heart, your eyes, and your mind. So now we're thinking along both lines, how you're going to make money and how you should think about the postseason. But Toad, you said the playoffs start Tuesday. Depending on who you ask, the playoffs start Monday.
Absolutely right. This today reminded me of Game 163, Tampa against the Red Sox, the epic Evan Longoria home run. A wild, wild day of baseball. I tweeted it earlier this afternoon. A really tough day for the baseball is boring contingency.
Yeah, good luck.
If I could pick any game from the regular season, even playoffs, and show it to somebody to help them, encourage them to get into baseball, give me Mets Braves game 161 and let them enjoy it. We had electric pitching by the Brave starter. I'm not even going to attempt.
Schwellenbach.
Yeah, I'm not.
Schwellenbach. Yeah.
Spencer Schwellenbach.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Dominated. Absolutely dominated.
Again, the game had everything. Dominating starting pitching. Epic comeback by the Mets. Epic blowjob.
Whoa. No diddy.
Yeah. Epic choke
job.
Epic choke
no
job.
Diddy on that one too.
Yeah. Whoa. Pause. Epic choke by the Mets. And then epic, like, my gosh, if it was not for Shohei Ohtani, Francisco Lindor has had an MVP caliber season, and it is insane to think that he was not even an all-star. Francisco Lindor, the second half of this season,
best player in
baseball. He looked at his locker room. He looked at his manager, Carlos Mendoza, and said, guys, I got this. And he,
mind you, coming back from an injury, he's been hurt the last 3.5 weeks. Right?
The guy hits his home run. To paint the picture, bottom of the eighth, the Mets had just come back, and then they had just blown their lead. The guy steps up to the plate, Starling Marte on first base, hits a bomb to give the Mets the lead right back. The guy's wincing mid swing, doesn't even celebrate the home run, and makes his way around the bases.
Such a cool moment. I think, we thought initially Major League Baseball had kind of screwed this up because and in a lot of ways they did, because the D-backs are kind of the odd man out here where their season ended without even a chance. Granted, they played 162 games just like everybody else. There's going to be one or two games here or there, but we thought the way MLB handled it by pushing a doubleheader on Monday, it's really unfair to everybody involved, because these two teams, the Mets and the Braves, are now traveling to play in the wild card series. I think the Mets will go to
Mets are going
Milwaukee.
Yes. We just talked to Bob, man. We should know this.
Hi, Bob. We just had Bob on. But yes, both teams will be traveling elsewhere to take on
Milwaukee or San Diego.
Right, Milwaukee or San Diego. Now, the D-backs were watching this game hoping that one of the two teams would sweep, and it was just never going to be a likely scenario because the Mets won game one, basically rested, didn't necessarily throw their best guys in game two. We thought Chris Sale was going to pitch.
The Mets started a guy who had only one start the entire regular season.
Right. So they kind of pulled the reins back. On the other hand, the Braves thought Chris Sale was going to go. Turns out Bob Nightengale breaking the news. He had a back injury. Couldn't go. Still get into the playoffs. I mean, obviously, it's just a tremendous day for baseball. That, like you mentioned, Toad, game 161 was absolute scenes. Shout out to my guy, Dan Hines, who was texting me through it. Huge Mets fan, was going through the wave of emotions. I think it's the perfect primer for this postseason.
It is. Well, actually, before I make my next point, live now in Bullpen Mafia, it is final. The Braves beat the Mets 3-0. And the playoff picture's set.
It's set.
We're ready for today. I'm going to speak for myself here. Not a whole lot of work is getting done today. I don't know about you, but I'm going to have the second screen set up. We're going to watch a little playoff baseball. luckily I work from home, so I don't have the March Madness bosses coming button, but I am extremely excited for today. It's baseball from 1 p.m. all the way to the West Coast on 11 p.m. Again, we've been saying it all season. We said it on our episode yesterday with Chris Felica. Don't give up on baseball.
No.
If you are looking for something exciting to watch this fall, tune in. It is a wide open race. No one has a favorite. Bob makes his pick, so stay tuned for that. But an absolutely wide open MLB postseason.
Absolutely wide open. If your college football team is not playing well, watch some baseball. I think that's the perfect. There's baseball every day of the week.
You're making this very personal right now.
I did make a personal jab at Toad, but to Toad's point, this is the perfect time for Major League Baseball. It's been a great, fantastic regular season. Just wrapped up today. As we mentioned, Bob Nightengale makes his pick. It's a very intriguing pick, albeit one that we did not expect. Toad and I did not expect this pick from Bob, but makes a great case for this team. Stick around to the back half of this episode. Toad and I talked about this beforehand. The MLB regular season flew by. We started this journey on opening day, I think, right?
Pretty much.
Mafia. Bullpen Mafia started opening day. So we thank you guys for sticking with us. Check out our merch. All our links are linked in the YouTube and Spotify. Like and subscribe wherever possible. Again, we're going to stick with you through the playoffs. We're going to try and get as many special guests as possible. Again, this week, the Bear, Bob Nightengale. We thank them so much for coming on and helping us out with this. Stick around for the back half of this episode. Toad, we missed Petey today, but we got our lion's share of baseball. It was a tremendous day for Major League Baseball. We have Bob Nightengale, MLB insider, columnist for USA Today. Bob, thanks so much for joining the Mafia.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Bob, so, I mean, obviously, today's been a wild day in baseball. The Mets win game 1 of this doubleheader, securing their spot in the playoffs. Have you ever seen a day like today in Major League Baseball?
That game, if that was a playoff game, it would be down, top 5, top 10 all-time classics. We always talk about 1986 being the greatest postseason ever, but that was like an 86 game, just zany, back and forth, 6 runs, 10 runs there in the 8th inning, and then the wild 9th inning. Then the Mets almost coughed it up again. So that was a good one.
And in a season where I think, the expanded playoffs have done so much for the game, all these wild card races, the 3 teams sort of fighting for these final spots, it's fitting that the 2 teams from the NL East, bitter rivals, get to face off in what seems to be, the seminal moment for the Braves and the Mets. And as we're recording right now, we get the TV on behind you, right? It's a 1-0 game. The Mets very much in it, playing spoiler for what the Braves, playoff hopes could be.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in the Mets, you'd actually prefer to lose because you'd rather face the Brewers and the Padres. I think the Padres might be the best team in the National League. So it's almost like, I was at the series with the Padres and the Diamondbacks. Padres knew yesterday they needed to lose. They wanted to force Atlanta and the Mets to play a doubleheader. To wear out the bullpens and everything else. So, it's like the Mets, whoever they play, you're not going to have the closer Diaz for game 1. He threw 66 pitches in 24 hours.
I was shocked that Diaz went out there back for the 9th inning, especially after that dicey 8th, but was able to get the job done. Bob, you were in Oakland this week, and we first had communicated through email. I thought Toad is a fan. We're both from South Florida, but looking for that next team, and we really resonated with the Oakland A's. Bob, that was a very emotional scene. It looked like for all intents and purposes, the final series in the Coliseum. Can you help the listeners understand the emotions in the building those 3 nights?
Yeah, I mean, they had big crowds each night. Of course, to sell out the last game. But yeah, it was almost like a funeral. Fans came by, to say their goodbyes. There was some anger, but I think the anger that kind of dissipated. Like, okay, it's not going to happen. Doesn't matter what we do. And it was nice that they won the last game. The fans are pretty good. The fans are great. So the very end, you got a little nervous, like, okay, too many people are throwing things. I think if the game had gone on 5 or 10 minutes longer, it probably would have been forfeited. So, but yeah, fans are great, cheering the team and talking about their memories. And, I don't think it's coming back there. If it does, it's going to be, 20, 30 years. Who knows if it ever comes back.
Bob, did they let members of the media take anything home from the Coliseum? I saw the grounds crew was handing out dirt from the warning track like it was Halloween candy.
Yeah. So particularly the beat writers, the guys who've been in for a while, got dirt. I know a couple of people ran the bases. People you felt bad for was longtime stadium employees, even employees of the team, particularly those who weren't, going up to Sacramento. So you saw a lot of tears. A lot of people very, very emotional. Even though the place was a dump and everything else, it was a tough time.
Do you think it's realistic that the Vegas move is going to happen without without the groundbreaking of the new stadium even happening? Is a long-term solution available in Sacramento, or it's Vegas or bust?
I mean, Sacramento's hoping they get to keep the team. I mean, they're going to pull all the stops, hoping the Vegas thing falls apart. But they got the $350 million in public funding. People think it'll work. I don't think it'll work. I live in Phoenix. It's the 5th largest city in the country. Has trouble surviving here. I don't see people flying to Vegas in the summertime, hanging out by the pools and clubs and gambling tables. Well, I want to go see a ball game. I just don't see it.
I was there a week and a half ago, walking the strip during the daytime, and it is baseball season. And I was texting Javi, thinking there is no way anyone can enjoy this, even if it's a dome stadium. Getting to the ballpark, you're going to be sweating your ass off. In the stadium, all you're going to be thinking about is get me out of here and get me to the slots. Why am I watching a baseball game?
Right? Yeah, yeah. If you want to see a baseball game, go to a cool place, your own hometown or something like that. But yeah, I don't think it'll work. We were talking to Bryce Harper about that. He doesn't either. He said no expansion team he thought would be something fresh, like their hockey team, but not taking someone's rejection. Just like the 4th different city the A's have been in.
Right.
Bob, in terms of, you mentioned rejects, who do you assign blame to here? Is it more the Oakland city, the city council? They never really got the stadium, planned sort of through the city government, or is it more, John Fisher and the ownership group that basically had their sights set on Las Vegas?
No, I think a little bit of everybody. I mean, it's been going on for 20 years. I think that's what MLB had said, enough. They wanted the public funding, couldn't get a site. Hey, blame the San Francisco Giants too. The A's gave them the territory when they almost moved to Tampa. They never gave it back. So when the A's wanted to move to San Jose, they wanted to move to Fremont, and the Giants wouldn't let them. So there's no reason they shouldn't have been at least in the South Bay there. So the fans weren't coming out even when the team was good. It wasn't like they were packing the place. So it's kind of amusing that last week when people talk about, hey, look at all these great fans. Well, if they were doing this the whole season, last few years, they'd never been moving in the first place.
Right. And piggybacking off of losers and rejects, our Miami Marlins locally, we had a lame duck manager the whole season. Bob, have you heard any rumors of who the Marlins would be looking into, or is it way too early in the process to even think about who the Fish would be replacing Skip Schumaker with?
Yeah, man, I don't think it'll be Gabe Kapler. There's been a lot of speculation about him. Manage the Phillies, manage the Giants. I think he stays in the front office. It's probably going to be someone that, he knows, maybe an analytic type guy. I'm sure they have a very short list because they've known this for a year. And when Schumacher went to him and said, hey, I want out, and they said, okay, we'll rip up your option. So they knew he was leaving. Everybody in baseball knew he was leaving. So we'll see. That makes a nice trade to the deadline. I mean, the rebuild is, looks like it has a nice, head start. Much further ahead than the White Sox and some of the other teams. But I bet they get a guy with like an analytical background, is my guess.
Bob, it's Toad and I, we record this from the shadow of Lone Depot Park. So we've been dying for meaningful baseball. We haven't had it in a very long time here in South Florida. So anything we can get with the Marlins, we take it and we run with it. But I think this time of year, it's so important to talk about the playoff. The playoff race ends today. We start the, wild card series tomorrow. From your perspective of the series that have been set, which is the one that catches your eye? Obviously with the Mets and Braves still in flux, we'll find that out here in the next hour or so.
I think certainly the Padres, whoever they play. Padres are a great team. They're easily the best wild card team standing. And, whether it's Atlanta goes in and the Mets go in, fabulous series. To me, that's the best one, I think by far. Just a lot of star power. And it's amazing. I mean, everybody talks about Soto in New York. The Padres are worst team with Soto. It's amazing how much better they are with a lot of star power. It's kind of funny.
With the Tigers on their hot run, do you think it's realistic they even have a shot to advance past the wild card series?
They could, just because of Jack Flaherty. I mean, you got not Jack Flaherty, with a Scuball. With Rick Scuball going game one, you like his chances, then you just got to win 1 or 2. So I think they could get past that first round, but they got to be kicking themselves. Their front office punted at the deadline and gave away Jack Flaherty. If they still have Flaherty, they could cause some more problems. But I don't see him going far.
That was our thing too. It's an incredible story. First of all, 10 games back with 6 weeks left to go, they make the playoffs, but they were sellers at the deadline, right? I mean, they got rid of some key pieces. They got rid of Andrew Chafin. They got rid of Jack Flaherty. There was even some talk about Skubal. I don't know how realistic that was, but obviously the Tigers going into the postseason, scathing hot. Bob, in your opinion, this time of year, who makes the deepest run? From the teams that we know, is it the Yankees? Is it the Orioles? These are two teams that we've talked about at length here, where they didn't really address some of their glaring needs in the bullpen at the deadline, and all of a sudden, they're here with a lot more questions than answers. It seems like, based on momentum, health, who's the one team that you think makes the deepest run into the postseason and ultimately hoists that World Series championship trophy?
I'm going to stick with Padres. I think they're the best team in the league. I really do. The Phillies are streaky. They can be pitched to. The Dodgers, their pitching's a mess. I know they got a great offense, but that pitching's a nightmare right now. And, Milwaukee's just okay. In the American League, I think it's going to come down to the Yankees and Houston. Probably give a slight edge to the Yankees. Cleveland will be my dark horse. They're a good team. Great bullpen. So I think they could surprise some teams. Baltimore just seems like they really struggled down the stretch. Not that they can't turn it on, but something's going on there where you don't have a lot of confidence that they'd go past maybe the first round or two, but that's it.
And since this is an interesting interview, considering what's going on behind you, I wanted to give you an update. The Braves are now up 3-0. Marcelo Ozuna just hit a 2-run double. I'm not sure if you're watching the game on your computer.
No. I heard some noise behind me. You can kind of tell that crowd noise. Like, okay, I don't think that was a homer, but I think it was a run scoring hit. Okay, thank you.
We broke news to Bob Nightengale. That's
wow.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Like the old Telegraph days.
Bob,
with Miami, it's funny. It's like, I wish they played every single WBC game there. That place is electric. It's like World Series games. I love postseason. It's my favorite time of year. But WBC, the games in Miami, the ones in San Diego, LA, other places aren't nearly like that. But that's electric. That's what frustrates you. I'm sure you guys being in Miami is like, why can't it be at least semi like that a lot more often? That's a blast. We've
had more fun at the World Baseball Classic games than every Marlins opening day game the last 4 years. The atmosphere this past one was incredible. Javi and I were lucky enough to go to a couple of them, and it was exactly how you described it. Baseball can thrive in Miami. We just love a winner, right? I don't think you're going to see many people at the Dolphins game tonight for that reason.
Yeah, it's too bad. Look, they're coming. Who knows the Jose Fernandez effect? I actually saw his last game there. Wow. So, then he passed 2 days later, pitching against the Nationals. But yeah, it's just a shame. It's a beautiful stadium, but the trouble is everybody says the wrong part of town as far as for people to get to. You talk to scouts and stuff that live in Fort Lauderdale, it takes an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's the same problem we have up in Tampa. Just that, wish that the ballpark was in Tampa, not St. Pete.
Vegas can have the Marlins, and Oakland should have kept the Athletics.
Well, Bob, it's been great to have you on. We appreciate coming on, especially on the busiest of Mondays in the Major League schedule of all things. One day after the season ends, we have a doubleheader, and it seems like we finally have our playoff picture sorted out. But Bob Nightengale, thanks so much for joining us. When next time the World Baseball Classic comes to Miami, you let Toad and I know. We'll show you a good time down here in South Florida. But we really appreciate your time.
I will. Yeah, I love the WBC. It's a fun thing. But just particularly like Miami, everywhere else isn't close to that atmosphere. That's electric. And that's like being at Yankee Stadium or Fenway Park or whatever, Wrigley, during October. I love the atmosphere. Yeah.
Thanks again, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, guys. Take care.